What's up, everyone? Monster Master Godzilla here, and I'm back continuing the Godzilla-Thon. We're now up to this one, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Now, this one continues after what happened in Godzilla vs. Biollante. And this is where the storyline goes a little back to the future, except not a comedy. But you'll get what I mean later. It began in the very distant future, where people from the future discovered King Ghidorah's body, and it was missing only one head. But we find out later on why in the battle. And it says that originally it had three, it lost one during the battle against Godzilla. But we later find out later on, It started off seeming like they're being invaded by aliens in the beginning, but we later find out that not really an alien spaceship. And there's even during times when someone believed they saw a real life dinosaur. And it's not, and there was someone being crazy in the museum saying that they saw a real life dinosaur, but only getting themselves kicked out of the museum. And a couple of the actors in this one are American, and there was a time when, and then they were talking about and it turns out those people that came from a flying saucer are not really aliens. Turns out they were time travelers from the future. And so then when they went into they had a meeting when they found out, they ended up having a meeting about Godzilla, thinking about if they can get rid of Godzilla through time travel. And they discussed that the atomic bombing is saying that a dinosaur was hit with radiation and it turned into Godzilla. So they found pictures from the war when there's Godzilla as a dinosaur. And so when they time travel during World War II, when the Americans are still in war against the Japanese. So then they went to the future. They went back to the past. And right when they went into the past, one of the Americans actually saw the flying saucer and saying it had a funny moment, saying it did look like it's from another planet, sir. Should we tell the lieutenant that we're being invaded by little green men from another planet? You should keep this as our little secret. Maybe you can tell your son about it when he's born, Major Spielberg. Which oh my god. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing as I thought it was so funny. Just thinking about it. Reference to aliens and Major Spielberg, which Steven Spielberg, because he directed both E.T. and Close Encounters with the Third Kind, which also involved aliens. So they end up time traveling into the past. And one thing you definitely don't realize, one thing you end up meeting was those three cute little creatures called Dorats, which you'll find out later on you'll find out the purpose of why they're there. So they found the dinosaur, which the dinosaur looked like it's very much a theropod, species unknown, but by looks of it, by looks of the dinosaur, I would probably say T-Rex-like. So the dinosaur ends up taking on American soldiers, and he fought well against American soldiers, only to get hit with wounded by the battleship. And surprisingly, one of the roars that the dinosaur had was using Gamera's roar for when the dinosaur got injured. So then after the dinosaur was injured saving the Japanese. The Japanese then ends up leaving the dinosaur while he's injured. So then the time travelers decide to take the dinosaur off the island, and take the dinosaur off the island, and then one of the few evildoers from the future end up releasing the Dorats on the island. So after they took the dinosaur off the island and used the Dorats, the three Dorats wound up getting hit with nuclear radiation, got fused together, and it became King Ghidorah, which this guy right here, which you remember from the Showa series, he's been Godzilla's arch enemy since Ghidorah the three-headed monster. If you haven't been on my channel, if you haven't been on my channel, you should go check out my review of Ghidorah the three-headed monster. To catch up on. So then King Ghidorah ends up going on a rampage throughout the city, and my God, it caused major destruction. And the only thing that would stop King Ghidorah was Godzilla, but unfortunately he doesn't exist anymore. But turns out they didn't prevent Godzilla from coming. It turns out they didn't prevent Godzilla from becoming a thing. They wound up creating the second and current Godzilla. So that's the confusing part with time travel. That's the confusing part of the time travel, which I would say they took the dinosaur that they've took off from the island was actually the second Godzilla, but not the 1954 Godzilla. So then, while he was radiated underwater, he was hit with the nuclear sub, and he got even bigger than the original Godzilla. So, like I said, he was 80 meters tall when he was first seen in Godzilla 1984, as well as Godzilla vs. Biollante. But in this one, they made him bigger than the other one. This time he was like 100 meters tall. So they made him bigger and badder than the other Godzilla. And then Godzilla ends up going on the rampage. And it's one of the biggest badass moments when Godzilla finally shows up rising from the sea. So then, after that, the best scene is we get to see Godzilla fight King Ghidorah on screen. So, and King Ghidorah, this is the first time we get to see both Godzilla and his archenemy without any ally monsters fighting. This time, sort of like Ghidorah the three-headed monster with no Rodan or Mothra. So that's why it was just Godzilla and Rodan and King Ghidorah fighting. And my God, King Ghidorah definitely gave Godzilla a hard time while fighting, which I would expect it because the arch enemy of Godzilla with three heads. You see King Ghidorah strangle Godzilla with his heads, and Godzilla's foaming at the mouth there. And eventually Godzilla used a nuclear pulse, and of course there was a moment where Godzilla makes King Ghidorah his bitch. Got the power to fight back. So then then Godzilla ends up firing his atomic breath on King Ghidorah, knocking out one of the middle head. King Ghidorah tries to retreat, and then Godzilla fires atomic breath one last time, and King Ghidorah is finally defeated and falls down in the water. And that's not the end of that. So King Ghidorah was defeated for now, and then Godzilla continues the rest of the movie going on a rampage through Tokyo. And so, just so you know, it turns out, even time traveling doesn't stop Godzilla from existing, because there's always nuclear radiation even after World War II. So that's how we proves that Godzilla is inevitable. See, folks, Godzilla does not go down easily, and he's inevitable. It proves that he's inevitable, that he will always be around. And so so then in the future they discover that King Ghidorah has been defeated by Godzilla, and they end up recovering King Ghidorah's corpse. They end up bringing him back to life in the future. And surprise, surprise, there was a moment where Godzilla and this man from World War II had a moment together, and they recognize each other. And Godzilla shows off his was a little heartbroken when he felt like he was betrayed, and he shows off his pissed off rage and burns him with his atomic breath and kills him. And so when Godzilla's on the rampage again, minding his own business, and then turns out, surprise, surprise, the bad characters from the future wound up bringing back King Ghidorah back from the dead by recovering his corpse from the ocean and resurrected him with robot mechanics. They replaced the middle head with a cybernetic head, and it's officially known, and Toho officially named him Mecha King Ghidorah. So that's the biggest plot twist of the film. So Godzilla ends up battling King Ghidorah, Mecha King Ghidorah, and then right when they were about to he was about to defeat Godzilla with the Godzilla grip and take him out of the city. So then Godzilla, even that doesn't stop Godzilla. So Godzilla relentlessly took down Mecha King Ghidorah, and then one of the Futurians managed to escape on her ship from Mecha King Ghidorah, and then it turns out that Emmy, which is one of the survivors, which is one of the Futurians, ends up admitting that she was actually a descendant of one of the characters from the future. And then after they said goodbye, and then it turns out at the end, Godzilla wakes up and fires his atomic breath one last time after defeating King Ghidorah. Yep, and that's the end of this one. This one I find is one of the absolute best of the Heisei movies, especially when we get to see both Godzilla and his arch enemy at their best battling each other. And especially since this one is the first movie I knew King Ghidorah, which is Godzilla's arch enemy. And that's it. That's all I have to say, folks. And as always, stay awesome, my Monster Masters. Next up, we will be taking a look at Mothra, Godzilla vs. Mothra, in 1992, which I know it's in the title. It's called Godzilla and Mothra: Battle for Earth, but which is the bullshit thing because it's really supposed to be Godzilla versus Mothra, not to be confused with Mothra versus Godzilla. So that's all I have to say, folks. And what I have here is a double feature. All I say, this was a double feature I have, which includes both Mothra and King Ghidorah. And this one I got here is automatically on English dub. I want to try to upgrade this one to a Blu-ray where I get to see it in both Japanese and English dub. So, I mean, I'm okay with... I watch them in both subs and dub, just so you know. And that's all I have to say, folks. I truly recommend getting King Ghidorah, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah in your collection, especially in this double feature. And alright, that's all I have to say, folks. And as always, stay awesome, my Monster Masters, and I'll catch you later. And stay tuned for Godzilla vs. Mothra. And I'll catch you later. Bye!